Hi there. Let's have a look how deep modeling works for specifying a mobile banking app. So let's have a look at an activity: view and manage accounts, cards, and transactions. That's quite a big thing if we compare that to use cases. The idea here is that we have an activity like marked here, and it consists of many or multiple sub-activities typically, and inside we have the flow between those sub-activities. And we can also see here that there are sub-activities, etc., leading to a hierarchical decomposition, which is in deep modeling always visible to the user, so that he has a map, a mental map as well of the application and how it's structured. So activities typically start with a start boundary event, and they end with an end boundary event. The end boundary event basically leads to some outside activity that can then decide further how any flow progresses from there. When we look at the first activity in here, we see that we can have a look at accounts. So it's just a display activity which prompts the user with affordances. One special thing in this notation here is that we can actually embed the screen mockups or actual screens during development. And so we see here that we can go back and transfer some money, pay a bill, go to the card hub, or step on some account. And these white parts here typically are annotations. So the screen is an annotation, but there are also textual annotations like instructions how displaying the screen should work. But also we see here that there are further sub-activities. So displaying screen actually runs somehow concurrently, or at least unspecified, in relation to loading the data. What we see here is that there's a standard loading indicator, and here's an indication that pull to refresh exists to reload data and so on. And here we could, when we wanted to drill deeper, see the API specifications of all these operations for loading the data. What we see now here is that the display accounts activity shows the potential activities of the user as boundary end events in red here. So the user can tap back, pay bill, or transfer some money, and this then naturally leads to the subsequent activity. So for example, when the user taps an account, we go to manage account details. And there's a bunch of sub-activities that are wrapped here in this manage account details sub-activity. And drilling deeper, we see that the details of one account are shown here. Again, we can go back, look on transactions, statements, transfer some money, go to Card Hub, and step on individual transactions as well. We see that the account details are queried that haven't been loaded before. And if the user now wants to go to the transactions, then we end up here in the list of transactions. And we can filter that inside the view, but we can also step on a specific transaction. So when we step on a specific transaction, that's through this boundary event here, then we basically go this one actually, and we end up here in the manage transaction subactivity, which naturally displays the transaction itself. And all we can do here is basically view it, go back, and dispute the charge. So if we want to dispute the charge, the user taps dispute this charge, and we again end up in some sub-activity dispute charge of managed transaction. And there we are prompted to enter a reason and comment on the reasoning there, and then submit the dispute request. So submitting leads to some backend call being made that can succeed or fail. And in any case, we go back to this dispute screen, actually. What else can we do? We could manage the cards that we have. Reach there through the card hub here or from the main screen. Remember, we had this button here that leads us through this boundary event to the card hub sub-activity, manage card hub sub-activity. And so here we show the cards, Visa Platinum, MasterCard Gold. We could order a new card. And so from there we can go to the card details of a specific card. And there are a lot of affordances here that we know from our banking as well. Setting, changing pins, blocking, unblocking, replacing and ordering a new card, turning a card or getting a virtual card, and other capabilities. So all these show up as boundary end events here again in the card details screen. And so we can, for example, block and unblock a card, report stolen and replace, and through this call the backend to block the card, and then get into the screen for ordering a new card. So as you can see, all these sub-activities nicely show up in a very structured way as part of this single activity. And now adding new capabilities, new features, for example, open new account, would be simple extensions of this sort here, where user taps open account, and then there we have the shell of a new sub-activity. Mind you, a proper tooling should not require the user to now start shifting around stuff and so on, which is the normal modus operandi of many tools. But instead, the idea is here that the tooling supports all these layouting capabilities. There can be certain hints for layouting. In this case here, we can wrap two sub-activities with a kind of lasso here, and thus ensure that they are placed next to each other. So that's deep modeling as applied to an app specification